Johnson, and this is Focus on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Pocondre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Talk about home affairs, in diaspora, current affairs, reliable information, history, talking about culture, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jar.
And I am Anthony Sean in the press, and welcome to Focus on Liberia. It's Friday, and as always here at Focus on Liberia, it is Friday night debate. Friday night debate is designated to debate serious issue, mostly about country Liberia. We have a responsibility as a people. We are a great nation. Liberia is a great nation, if you want it that way. But it can be worse. It got to be actions. It got to be deeds. It has to be about responsibilities. It has to be about doing your part when the moment demands, when the time is right. And this time is that time when each and every Liberian must be heard, for our nation must progress. We have a nation. That nation has laws, the Constitution in particular. The Supreme Court has given the much anticipated clarity of its previous ruling, and we have heard from the parties involved. Franticofa in particular welcomed the Supreme Court affirmation of his speakership and have made a great speech in which he was very reconciliatory, promising to even make the ultimate sacrifice for the sake of a nation that needs everybody. On the other hand, Honorable Rachel Kuhn, the one who been referred to as the purported speaker the Supreme Court couldn't be very eloquent and clear that everything Kuhn and his group did was illegal, unconstitutional, and they were in error, and he's not in any shape and form a speaker of the House of Representatives. But what did Kuhn do? A lawmaker, what did he do? He rejected and denounced the ruling of the Supreme Court. And so then it came to the head of the nation. President Josiah Yamambuaka needed to come clear, clean, and give a position that will resolve this matter. And then the president got that opportunity. Hopes were high that the president will campaign on the rule of law, will be able to uphold the rule of law by respecting, accepting, and enforcing the decision of the highest court in the land. The lawyers will tell us a decision of the Supreme Court is law. And when we look at the separation of powers doctrine, the president enforces the law. But the president said he will do business with the one declared as an illegal speaker, because that one, Richard Kuhn, according to the president, has quorum on his side, and he rather do business with the one who has quorum other than the one the Supreme Court says is the legitimate speaker of the Republic of Liberia. You know what the president is saying? The Supreme Court said this man is wrong, this one is not legitimate, it's illegal. I will do business with the illegal guy. Where do you stand? And now, as we see, prominent Liberian citizens, sons and daughters of the country, political parties, stakeholders, they are all speaking out. And we want to have a debate on the issue to hear from you. The phone line will be open. We want to hear your side. Ordinary Liberians are speaking. Of course, we must maintain. People are divided. Where do you stand? We saw a group of political parties that came together with one voice and saying, this is wrong. The president cannot do this. How can the highest court in the land say this person is wrong, this person is right, and the president is saying otherwise? The propensity of the president's action can have far-reaching consequences. It can threaten the stability of the country. It can threaten the peace of the country. It can even threaten his administration. Well, Evan Morris is a bright mind, very conscious about the things that are happening in Liberia. Evans, welcome. I wanted to fire you up with the debate. I wouldn't like you and myself having a debate. I'm prepared for that. How you doing?
Look, Mr. Sia, I'm reserved. I won't even say I'm good. I'm reserved this afternoon. And I feel I have a duty now, to come and speak, because the future of our nation is in peril. Over the past months, I've been apathetic to the issues in Liberia. I've grown tired of it. I took a couple of months off from being on platforms and pontificating on issues. But now I think I'm more invigorated, because when your nation is in chaos, when your nation has the potential to devolve, you have to muster up the courage to come and speak. If any time was the time to come on these platforms and speak to the conscience of the Liberian people, to speak against, the wrongdoings in the country, is now. Now is not the time to sit on your hands. Now is not the time to be quiet. It's the rightful time to come up and speak. And that's why I'm here. And I've been active these last couple of days, because I realized that if there's any time to come up and make your voice heard, it's right now. Anybody listening out there, come on the platform, make your voice heard, because silent means consent. If you're silent and you're not speaking up against what's going on, that means you consent to it. So hopefully, our other colleagues can join us and make their voices heard on this issue, because it's very paramount, making sure that the Liberian people stand up for the democracy that they fought for, and that the country will continue to move forward and stay alive. Because these are how democracy died. if nobody is there to stand up and fight. Thank you.
Ever Morris, you are right on. Is if there has been uh, a time that we must all speak, that time is now. This is not about what side you on. No. This is about what is right for Liberia. What message do we send out now? Look, when President Weah last election, even though he's not the first to do it, never waited for the final result from the National Election Commission, conceded, and went further by placing a phone call to President Joseph Boakai. Now, it was a move. I know many people try to dismiss it. I can say for the records here, he's not the first to do it. Joseph Boakai did it when he lost the election in 2017. He did it. He even had a speech, and his concession speech was great. He said, "No one's going to use my name to spill blood in this country." He placed a phone call to President Weah and congratulated him. That was a great moment for the nation, standing up and doing what is right. President Weah did it. President Weah was monumental because some people expected otherwise. It raised the standing of our country. Liberians across the globe were so proud of their nation. This is one of such time. And the one we expected the most to uphold this is the president. He is taking a different direction. Morris, let's do this. Liberians have been speaking out. There is a Liberian citizen called, a code name is OCM. Go by the name Original Countryman. But he's Dr. Nimlin. In this gun election, he had lived in the United States for some time. He went to Liberia, wanted to contest. There was a case against him on the issue of residency. He did not participate in the election because they said, well, he was not in Liberia long enough to participate in the election. That matter went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court ruled that, no, he couldn't run. He felt that the Supreme Court ruling was not fair to him. He's a Liberian citizen who had lived in Liberia for a long time before coming to the United States. But what did he do? He agreed. I mean, he accepted the Supreme Court ruling, and he did not contest in the election. Today, he stayed in Liberia. Now, I've been hearing a lot of Liberians are speaking out. Tiawan Gonglo has spoken out. I talked about the political parties earlier. And what's his name? Dr. Clarence Monima also spoke out that the president cannot do this. This path the president is treading on is dangerous. His words. Who are the Liberians you have heard from that you know and you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, we've heard from various political stakeholders, but I think Chancellor Charlene Bromskin, she had about a 2 or 3 minute video when she came up and was basically, stating that disrespecting the ruling of the Supreme Court is a dangerous precedent that the president do not want to set for the nation. Of course, we heard from, the CDC, the ANC, people like Lafayette Gould, the chairman of the ANC in Liberia. They spoke today at a program. The former vice president, of course, Madam Joe Howard Taylor, she spoke, on the issue. The CDC, Janga Kaur, he spoke. So I mean, a lot of these political actors are speaking. But somebody like Charlene Bromskin speaking, even though she's into the political realm, but I think more so we respect her as a lawyer and a daughter of Charles Bromskin, the late. So I think that really resonated with me because she came out and really spoke against this president. And I think for the most part, she was aligned with him in other places. But I really took that to heart. And let me say this, Mr. C. Every well-meaning Liberian knows this is wrong. Why is the president going against the Constitution? And I like this. Actually, I'm excited that most Liberians are standing up for the Constitution of the Republic. it's a prideful moment for us, and we should all be proud because there's a lot of things that Liberia allowed to happen to them in that country. A lot of rule, a lot of mistreatment is meted up, is netted against them, and they just accept it. But when it comes to the repetition and the dignity of the Constitution, they say no. We're standing up. People who have some kind of stake in the country, who feel like maybe if they speak up, they might get targeted by this government. They're putting all that aside, and they're all speaking up. People we never heard from in the last few months, they're coming up and they're speaking up. So I think the Constitution is what's really galvanizing us together. The dignity of our Constitution is what's bringing everybody together, and people are starting to speak up more and more. And I like that, and I think it needs to continue. And the president needs to see reason. He needs to see reason to recalculate and recalibrate his decision in the statement that he made. He has to tell the nation that, you know what, even though I vehemently disagree with this ruling, I'm going to uphold the Constitution that I took an oath to uphold, and I'm going to do the right thing, and I'm not going to support this so-called majority bloc. The people have spoken. The power is inherent within the Liberian people, and as such, as a servant of the people, I will listen to their voices, and I will recant, and I will, adhere to the ruling of the Supreme Court. I want to hear that from the president. Everybody's against him, unless maybe the sycophants that's around him in his core circle is telling him otherwise. But the entire nation is against this judgment, this lapse in judgment that he did yesterday with that statement. So, Mr. Sia and Mr. Sharif, I'm glad we're on here tonight to speak. If any other time, our nation needs us right now to speak up. Thank you.
Thank you. Let us welcome Focus on Liberia political analyst, my good friend, Comrade Mohammed Sharif, from all the way Chidipo Kanwekin, from the Waplo Institute. He's been vocal. He's a patriot and independent. He supports you when you are on the right path. And he will tell you in your face that you are wrong when you are wrong. Comrade, welcome to Friday Night Debate. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm very well, and it's good to be here, gentlemen. And thank you so much for that elaborate intro.
Comrade, the Supreme Court has made clear its ruling that we all criticize as being ambiguous. In the clarity of the Supreme Court this time did not miss its words. The Supreme Court affirmed Funanti as the legitimate speaker, that he was not removed constitutionally, and that he was illegally removed or never removed in the first place. And so here we are. The President of the Republic had one of the greatest opportunity of his life to prove that he is a president who can campaign on the rule of law. Yeah. What I see, comrade, is a 360-degree turn from preaching rule of law to something else. I'm sure you're listening to the president's statement. President is talking about he will not allow lawlessness, that his administration will not be held hostage. Liberians are speaking out in droves, disagreeing with the president, appalled by the path the president has taken.
Right.
You heard Evan Morris there. He said, look, if there have never been a time in our history for us to speak up during our time, that time is now. Let us hear from you.
Thank you again, Anthony. Look, I don't know. I heard the president went to the university. I don't know which University of Memphis or Memphis, my alma mater. I'm going way back. But University of Liberia or Cottington University College. I don't know if this president probably didn't do history. He's not a student of history, I don't think. But all of us should be students of common sense. So the president should be a student of common sense. I don't care if he didn't study history. But what the president has exhibited by his speech last night, somewhere around 8 o'clock last night, he waited a full 24 hours to deliver a shameful address, a divisive address to the nation. And this president is on the path, the trajectory, if you will, of throwing this country into chaos. It must be said. There's no way around this. And I'm appalled by people like Kofi Woods who were passing around, as they say in Liberia, you're passing around here, who were passing around, going around, masquerading as militants of student activism in the days that we needed courageous people. We're talking about the days of Alari Topa and others, Duwenya and others. We're talking about days where student activism was at its height. And in the aftermath, shortly in the aftermath of that, or just about that time, you had the likes of Kofi Woods who emerged on the scene, masquerading. I can say now, masquerading as activists. Why is this not being condemned? Why is it not being condemned by everybody, including the commercialized human rights community? The political opposition needs to stand up to this president. Forget about the handouts that you're going to give from him. He has shamefully come on air and deliver one of the worst presidential addresses that I have ever seen. Look, George Weah, the votes were still being counted, and Weah conceded and upheld our democracy. When it came time now for this president to do his part, he has shamefully caved to chaos, to the agents of destruction and chaos, these illiterates, Cohen and others, these guys who have achieved nothing in their lives, no legislative achievement to speak of, and he's standing by these people. He's standing with the hooligans. He's standing with the coup plotters, the coup makers, the coup makers in the legislature. This is a sad, sad day for Liberia. Bouaka is throwing the country in chaos. The only person that Bouaka is going to listen to now is the American ambassador to Liberia. If the Americans come up right now and say anything to him, he's going to sing a different song. He's not listening to the Liberian people. He's not listening to me and you. He's not listening to the Supreme Court of the Republic of Liberia. He has denigrated, desecrated the rule of law and the administration of justice. What kind of president is this? What do we have right here? This is chaos. It must be said. It was those of us not too long ago who said we need change. We really need to turn the page from George Weah. We said we need to turn the page. And when he won the election, we were thrilled. But he has given us a lot more headache, a lot more confusion than George Weah ever did in his last in his 6 year term, in his one term as president. And so what's going to happen now is people must come together and enforce, the citizens must enforce the Supreme Court decision. You're not taking the law into your hands now, because the law is that Kofa is the legitimate speaker. I've said that all along. There was no ambiguity. And in my thinking, in my logic, there's people out here these opportunists and emotional supporters of the Unity Party who were senselessly calling us names and all these different things of that nature that we didn't know what we were talking about. But now we're vindicated. We've known this all along. We've known that the justice minister is bought. The justice minister is not a legal luminary. He's not a legal luminary. So I want to conclude on here now.
Okay.
What the Supreme Court has done, what the Chief Justice has done, she has now etched her name among the luminaries of the Supreme Court of the Republic of Liberia. I'm talking about luminaries like Chair Chipo, luminaries like Justice James A. Pierre, legal luminaries of yesteryears. She has now etched her name in the history books of all time. Never mind the desecration of the rule of law and the administration of justice by this administration that's on the side of lawlessness, of chaos. And I want to in this manner quote Dr. Yeke Koluba. Dr. Yeke Koluba said that this is a lawless regime. So I want to follow Dr. Koluba to say, I salute you. It's a lawless regime at this point in time. What are we doing? Like, what is this? What is this? So if war breaks out, Boaka is going to run and come and sit with us here in the United States. And we will be having these town halls and, oh yeah, Mr. President, come. We will, there will be these, they will be sitting among us here. Richard Cohen and others will be running to Ghana to live in their houses in Ghana, or Nigeria, or Cote d'Ivoire somewhere, or in Conakry, where they're all going to flee these guys. These are cowards. These are cowards. And they have to be condemned. Not only condemned, because they don't listen to condemnation, obviously. So the Liberian people need to seize the baton, take the bull by the horns, and chase them out of office. I'm here to say, chase them out. Do you want my support? I'm here.
Thank you.
To support. Chase them out. I would donate to such a campaign. Call me whatever. Chase them out.
Thank you, Comrade Sharif. You spoke well. I am ready for this discussion and this debate. And like I said, we have a responsibility to our nation. The Supreme Court has done its part. This is what we are needed to see a Supreme Court should do, or could do, or would do. And it has done it at long last. In Liberia, they say better late than never. No ambiguity on this issue. So the question I'm asking now is, who all must do their part now? And how can that part be done? And we mentioned a few Liberians. The opposition came together, a few political parties. They had a joint press conference. They disagree with the president. They feel strongly that the ruling of the Supreme Court must be upheld, and the president is under constitutional mandate to enforce the Supreme Court ruling. The president has no other option. If there's any other option that he wants to choose, then it's lawlessness. And that is not good for our country. Earlier I was listening to a lawyer in Liberia called Lafayette Good. Mr. Good articulated that, look, when the Supreme Court hands down a ruling, that ruling is an equivalence of a constitutional clause that the president took oath to enforce. If the president decides to go against that, he's blatantly, knowingly, and flagrantly violating the Constitution. And that is enough for the president to be impeached. That is his legal argument. Because no other way around, because the president is subverting the Constitution. That is one of the president's primary responsibility, to uphold, to enforce the laws, especially the Constitution of Liberia. Now, the president has chosen a different path. I'm glad you said it. Say, look, if the American ambassador were to whistle just in the thin air, this president will come down on his knees, because now then a white man has spoken. The almighty God, America, has spoken. Does they have to come to these fellow Africans and Liberians? The white folks, they are our friends. We are equally intelligent like them. You were elected by your people and not America. We saw people who justify for you, made excuses for you, made the case for you, the likes of George Lobo and many others. Some of them don't even have a job in the first place, but yet they continue on this path. Yeah. Liberians were in, according to the United Party chairman, they were in the poo-poo water. That they had a rule of law candidate who will uphold the rule of law. Here is the rule of law. Now, I want to see those who voted for the president on account of him being a rule of law candidate to stand for the rule of law. Now, let them disagree with the president. You read something that reminded me about, some of our big brothers who were loud, who stood their ground on the basis of the rule of law. The likes of my big brother, Dr. Dubai Christian. I talked to him recently. How is Dubai Christian feeling right now? What position is he going to take? And I'm going to put all of them on the spot, because this is at a time for us to exhibit our patriotism. I want to hear from Dubai Yan where he stands. Is he with the president on this? I want to hear Alaric Tuba. I'm sure, comrade, you remember a press conference that Alaric Tuba held when he was going after George Weah. He was loud, he was clear, he was not ambiguous, he was vicious in his clarity. He was able to present the political implications. He historicized what happens when one engages in violating the rule of law.
I like that.
He even said that what we are is doing.
Come with it, man. Come with it.
Yeah, these are the kind of things that bring war. Alaric Toba is in this government. He's at the Good Governance Commission, for Christ's sake. Good governance. I want to hear this good governance agent now to come clean. I don't want Alaric to be quiet, because when we was in quiet, he was not quiet. When we were in power, he was not quiet. I was not quiet. I will not be quiet now. No. So those who were loud yesterday, who advocated for the rule of law, we want to hear them. I don't want to see you quiet because you're in government. That paycheck, it comes from us. Yes. That paycheck is not coming from President Walker. It is the Liberian people money. So if you will not choose to be on the side of Liberia by being on the side of rule of law, and you will be on the side of an individual, if you want to disagree, let Rachel Kun, who say he rejects the ruling of the Supreme Court, he denounced it. And President Walker, it's like President Walker is following Rachel Kun's lead. This is what I see. The question I ask now, I get for President Walker is, what do you get from this Rachel Kun? What is it with the Rachel Kun that you think you can get? This man has been speaker purportedly now for some time. What has this president gotten out of this? How long can he tread this path? So I want to see Dubayan come clean and give a position like Waka did. Waka told us where he stands. I want to hear from Larry Tuba. I want to hear from, what's his name, Kofi Wu. He's been quiet. He has the president here, national security advisor to the president. This is his product. This is what Kofi Wu is giving us. Having been in the human rights community for this long, this is what Kofi Wu is giving us. Bushi Ben Keita, this is what you are giving us.
Anthony. I know you'll come to Elvis, right? So, when we were at LU, right? So you read these history books, even in high school. You read these history books, and you read books like you read other books. You read books like The Love of Liberty by Kwan Ware. You read books, written by Joseph Sequano and others, and this and that, and all these different things. And you read about those fighters, those activists, those people who laid down their lives, for freedom. Aberport, Detour and others. You read about these people. You read about Nettie Brownell and all these different people like that. You think that they sat in the comfort of their homes when it was comfortable to do nothing? Because during their days, what was better for them to do was to just say, "Yes, sir, Mr. President." And they would have gotten big fat jobs, big fat bank accounts. But no, they didn't. They didn't. They went all out in the fight for justice and the rule of law. And you know what happened to them? The dictatorship of Tubman and others clamped down on these people. But guess what? Years later, half a century later, and 100 years from now, 200 years from now, these people have etched their names in the annals of Liberian history forever and ever. Maybe it's also bear repeating. I've repeated it several times on this platform that one act of Councilor Chair Chipo, he redeemed himself by the thing that he did that day. And they dragged him to the Capitol building shamefully to impeach him. And we were there. I was there to cheer, to support Councilor Chair Chipo. As a poor student, we went in there. People like Cephas Mabandi have etched their names in the annals of Liberian history. People like that, history will always remember them. History is going to remember, these other Kofi Woods for what now? What is he going to be remembered for? Nothing. He's not going to be remembered for anything unless he comes up in this critical moment. In this critical moment. Sometimes you sit somewhere and historical events and you make history because history will come and meet you in a certain place. And don't be comfortable. Get up and do something. So they need to get off of their behinds and do something now for the sake of Liberia. I don't care if they don't want to go down in history as great men and women, but they need to do something for their country.
Thank you.
Mr. Sear, I want to use an example that I think is apt when it comes to President Boyka. We heard this during the campaign that he's a traditional man, When you go get initiated into the Poor Society, you take an oath, usually of secrecy and other things. You take an oath to uphold, and they tell you the consequences of divulging certain secrets of that society. Engaging in certain things. I think the people of that society respect the oath of that secret society that they take, more so than the oath that they take to uphold our Constitution. As we understand, President Boyka is a member of the Poor Society. So he understands what it means to uphold oaths. So he took an oath to uphold our Constitution, and he just he just abdicated that responsibility to do so. He's gone against the oath of office that he took. A traditional man should understand the importance of oaths. You understand the importance of covenants that you sign, whether with the traditional people or with the citizen of a nation. And I'm sure the president understands this. One of the things that I took away from that speech, and again, I don't want to make fun of his health, but he was shaking. We seen other speeches of his, at the United Nations, at other events in Liberia, and we didn't see the paper in his hand shaking that much. Was it poor health? Was it out of fear when you're so nervous that you're doing something you know you shouldn't be doing? It almost becomes like an out of body experience, and you're not to yourself. What's going on with our president? Look, you can't abdicate your fiduciary responsibility that you took an oath to uphold the Constitution of Liberia. You can't do that. You can't do that. That is subversion of the Constitution, like most of these legal minds have said, and it's tantamount to sedition, if not treason. You can't do that. Taking an oath is not just a play thing. It's something that is very, very serious. It's a contract. It's legally binding that you must uphold that oath of office that you took. And he's doing the opposite. I'm not calling for violence, but I'm calling for civil unrest in the country. I'm calling for Liberians to activate, to use their civil liberties and their civil disobedience to move and tell the president we're not happy. You're disregarding our Constitution. If we don't have a Constitution, we don't have a republic, and you can't do that. We enshrine certain powers in you to fight to enforce the Constitution. It's one of your highest duties. It's one of the most honorable things that you have as a president is to uphold the Constitution of the republic. If you can't do that, what else can you do? What else can you do? We're appealing to the president. I mean, we're here to get emotional about it, but the reality is, if you can't do that most honorable thing in upholding the Constitution of your republic, what can you do? What can you do? I'll leave it there for now, Mr. C.
Yes, Elvis, thank you. And throughout this broadcast, I will do my best to bring statements from Liberians who are speaking out. There's a front page article here. Dr. Tuba Nantipote is also speaking, and I like that Liberians are standing up here. And if the president can do the honorable thing and make a detour here to save this government, that is the right thing to do. There's no shame in doing the right thing. All right. Now, the newspaper is quoting Dr. Tipote. Dr. Tipote says, the Supreme Court of Liberia ruled that Liberia must be governed by the rule of law and not by the rule of outlaw, he said. This means that Liberia must be governed by the Constitution. The people of Liberia agree with the Supreme Court because they know that governance by the rule of law is governance in the right direction. Dr. Tipote speaking. Now, there's something I read from Vafli Dolly that I shared, and I'm going to read it here. Vafli writes, and Vafli, I understand, I think he's working with the National Port Authority, if I'm not mistaken. This is a gentleman who is playing a role some way, somehow in this government. I understand. I'm not sure of that, but I've seen him at some of the seaports, doing some work, right? Vavli writes, President Bwaka has the power to fix our spoiled Liberia. Supreme Court ruling is a time bomb, he writes. The Halloween quagmire in the aftermath of the Supreme Court ruling favoring Speaker Fonati Kofa is troubling amidst the refusal of President Bwaka to affirm the acceptance and recognition of Fonati Kofa as the legitimate Speaker of the House. The ambiguous stance of President Bwaka is a time bomb unless there is an immediate reversal. I am historically retrospective of the adamant and arrogant nature of President Willie Arrow Turnbull, but not listening to the people cries, which led to the violent removal of the government. We are conscious of the barbaric governance posture of the late Samuel Doe, leading to the devastating Civil War, mindful of the brutality of Charles Taylor, leading to his incarceration in Britain. They all ended up dismantling because they were misled and didn't listen. We must learn from him in order to optimize our democracy, he writes. So Liberians are speaking out. We heard from Dr. Tipote. We heard from several political party leaders. We heard from the young woman, Charlene Bruskin. We heard from some lawyers. I don't know if President Waka will now listen to his people who elected him. I don't know who else he wants to listen to. So I rather want to see this president making a detour. I rather want to see the president making a detour. It is the right thing to do. But if he thinks he can go through this path, so many things can happen. You saw why Yaka called about day today, making the argument at war. The president has chosen the side of lawlessness. The president is the one who sets the pace as to how we as citizens should behave in terms of governance. Saying he has chosen the side of lawlessness, I will follow his example. Went into the Capitol and started taking things down. Can Yeka Koloba be arrested?
They're going to do that.
You are calling, Comrade Sharif, you are calling that the citizens should do something. And that is why we are looking at the topic here. The Supreme Court has done its part. Who all must do theirs and how? So I put it to you. Who all must do their part and how must they do it for us to get this right? We can't afford to go through this path.
We all have to do our part. We all have to do our part. We're doing our national duty right now by calling on the citizens to go out and go on a mass protest of forcible removal, forcible arrest, citizens' arrest of Coon and his illiterate supporters. You know, you want my support? You have my support. You want us to pitch in some financial? Yes, we will pitch in. And you know, as far as I can go, I can't put time in right now. I don't know if, you know, I just came back from India. I don't have time to, you know, to go on the ground. But yes, I will give any amount of support. So to answer your question directly, all of us need to stand up for the rule of law. The citizens' mass mobilization has to go on. You know what's going to happen. Vafle said something. He said the president, you know, has not taken position. It's in the middle. He's not in the middle. He's not in the middle. He's on the side of Richard Cohen. Keep in mind, Richard Cohen was defeated. He was defeated fair and square in the election that brought Speaker Kofa to that office. So having been defeated, not satisfied, they planned this coup d'etat with the connivance of the executive mansion. I am now again vindicated to say that the executive mansion was a planner of this. And with that, the president shamefully came and told us that, you know, he's on the side of quorum. He's on the side of Richard Cohen. You know, Anthony, he's not going to listen to them, to the Liberian people, because he has a brutal police force. The police director is very brutal. They're going to shoot tear gas. They're going to shoot rubber bullets. They're going to shoot live bullets. He has the military. They're going to, when their backs are to the wall, they're going to pull the military as well. They have been investing in arms. These guys have not been investing in agriculture. They've not invested in education. That's why you have the rotten school, which has made the rounds on our platform in Riverside. You go to Kalipo now, there's, you know, people probably sitting on the floor taking notes. Okay, and his home county of Lofa, the places with no bridge. People are you know, walking in the creek and canoes that are subsiding and all, and people are dying. So no, they're not going to invest in that. They're going to invest in weapons. What they have. They've invested in new uniforms for the police. You know, they're overpaying their brutal police director, who's paid to go out there and shoot rubber bullets and tear gas. And if he's pushed to the wall, he's going to fire live rounds on the Liberian people. But you know what? freedom is not free, especially to remove tyranny. People, if people have to die for tyranny, for the cost of saving the nation, the Liberian nation that we all cherish, if that's the sacrifice, so be it. If this is what Bwaka wants to do, if this is how he wants to be remembered, if this is how his brutal police director wants to be remembered, if this is how Richard Cohn wants to be remembered, so be it. What I can say though is when they do these things, when a new administration come in, they then must be held accountable. That throw us into a whole different discussion where we're not holding anybody responsible for killing the Liberian people. And so, again, we go back to this whole idea of impunity. Bwaka knows that when you do these things, you get away with it. Are we going to allow this administration in this lawless atmosphere to get away with this? You know, those of us who are talking about this right now, we are Liberian patriots. I have been vociferously independent on the issues that affect the Liberian people. So to the extent that the president promised to bring yellow machines and develop the interior, develop roads and, you know, make the roads pliable in 90 days to the Liberian people, I got excited. And I'm still holding him to that. But right now, we're not talking about that because everything else, Anthony, is subservient to what is going on now. This is an existential threat to the stability of Liberia. Liberia cannot survive if we don't have the president and his cronies respecting the rule of law. This is now the rule of lawlessness, and we must never accept this. So I call for mass protests all over the country. I understand the students went out and the police were out in full force. Why is the police coming out here? Why are you having the police out here? They're about to make a mess. And if Dr. Koluba goes out there and removes stuff, if they get angry, they get mad tomorrow morning, they're going to charge him with something. So be it. If that's what he wants to do, Bwaka, who is in his probably mid-80s, this is how he wants to live the rest of his life, so be it. Then he's going to go down in history. History will be written as here goes the worst president of the republic who sold his dignity for
Mr. C, I want to come in here, please. Sorry,
Yeah.
Mr. Chief.
United States dollars.
Thank you, comrade. And look, Morris, I don't know what you have on your mind, but I'm curious here. Will we see any member of the administration to publicly disagree with the president and remind him that whether or not you disagree with the Supreme Court ruling, our laws are clear. When Supreme Court says this, that's final. The strange thing here is the very Richard Cohn who disagree and reject ruling is now saying he's going back to the Supreme Court, seeking what they call re-argument. But you said Supreme Court has no fish to fry in this thing.
Right.
You don't trust them. Why are you going back there? That the Supreme Court's decision does not matter in this issue, all right? In this case, the president agree with you. The president endorsed your path, and you got the backing that you ever wanted, a presidential backing that supports you as speaker. You have it. You don't need the Supreme Court. Why are you going back to the Supreme Court? For what?
Right.
Go ahead, Mr. Morris.
Look, I think when you ask the question, who all must do their part? There's one big entity that must do their part. And I think there's semblance coming from that entity that they're ready to do their part.
Okay.
It is the Senate of the Republic of Liberia.
Good.
That's the House of Elders. They're even more powerful than the House of Representatives. And they're the last quote unquote bus stop before any bill or any legislation gets to the president. And we heard one of the leaders in the Senate, Darius Dillon, who openly spoke after the ruling that the Supreme Court affirms that Fonati Kofa is the speaker. So we've heard one person confirm and affirm it that Konati Kofa is the speaker. I think the Senate pro tem, Madam Yombli Kanga Lawrence, has to come up with her colleagues in solidarity with the wider Liberian public and affirm that the Senate stands with the court ruling, effectively cutting off the legs from under President Boyka and letting him know that there will not be accomplices to his blatant disregard of the Constitution of our republic. So I think if the Senate came up and spoke in support of the Supreme Court, you can't go pass laws through the lower house and not get the confirmation from the Senate. If the Senate doesn't recognize Nambukun as the speaker, they're not going to pass anything that the lower house or their so-called quorum group send up to them. So I think they're even more instrumental in blocking this power grab that this president is trying to take. So the Senate is always important in checking the president's power. Even when the lower house is trying to be in the pocket of the president, the Senate can put a checkmate to it. But do we have to trust? Do we have to believe that Madam Yombli Kanga Lawrence can muster the courage to get other lawmakers who are sympathetic to this government on her side to stand up for the Constitution and shun the enticement of being a stooge for this president? I don't know. But this is her moment. This is their moment in the House of Senate to say, you know what? Let's stand up for the Constitution. President Boyka may be gone in 5 years. God forbid God may call him home 2 years from now. But our republic must stand after that. Let's stand up for the Constitution. They are our last hope to checkmate this president. If they concur with his blatant disregard of the Supreme Court ruling, then we're truly in a quagmire. And then the final thing now will be in the hands of the Liberian public to take action.
Look, Mr. Morris, you are point on there. What the Senate does will matter a little more. Darius Dillon had put himself on record. Immediately after the ruling, he said it. The Supreme Court has spoken. Fonati Kofa is the speaker. He supported this president. I know he did so because he wanted to have the political connection to sustain him politically and be close to power. That is how it has always been for Dillon. He's always in it for himself. That does not take away the truth that he spoke. All right? Dillon may not be a lawyer, but he been in the corridor of justice. He been around legal minds, from working at the Ministry of Justice, working with, I think, Rachel Good and some other people. Yeah. And now becoming a senator, not one time, now this is a second term as a senator. Also, he has some consciousness of the law, and we can't take that from him. And this is a moment to redeem himself. But whether or not he can influence his colleagues to follow suit, we are, aware of his strong affinity with Yombli Kanga Lawrence now, who is the pro tem. But will Yombli Kanga Lawrence disagree with President Boyka? I want to see that. I really want to see that, because what the Senate will do going forward will speak a little more volume. So on that same question, I agree with Comrade Sherry. The people I want to see whose voice will matter the most, that will be the Liberian people. Their money being used by the administration to financially bankroll these lawmakers who are perpetuating the nonsense. Lawmakers are not even upholding the law.
Mm.
This administration kept these guys in a hotel and fed them. They're getting paid.
Yeah.
We are aware of Liberian citizens working at the Ministry of Information. You know how much they're making? $40 United States dollars.
Yeah. Per month.
And about 2,000 Liberian dollars. That is their monthly pay. They have no other incentives. None. They don't even have transportation. The last time I saw them at the Ministry of Information, Cultural Affairs, and Tourism, they were with the minister proper cutting grass with cutlasses. This it has come to.
Oh, wow.
I'm telling you. Oh, you want me to shock you again? At the very of the capital, I saw, comrade, you know, I just from Liberia. I saw people with chapia, I will say, in Liberia, cutting grass in the yard of the capital building. They even get.
You're taking me back.
I'm telling you, this is
back to high school.
Anybody can confirm that. For them to get something for a Liberian citizen to sit on and cut the grass in the yard, these individuals are incapable. But they are capable of getting 45,000 to 60,000 cars.
Right.
I saw a pickup truck, GMC, parked for this purported speaker in a spot. I'm like, no, see, even understand he's in a poor country.
Right.
I mean, these guys can really put their life on the line, risk their life. But again, the most important individuals that must be loud now, that should be the Liberian people. Because, you know, you see the likes of Joel Howard Taylor now, Mumba Malu, all right, CDC, a Carol Grace and other now are now stealing the landline. I mean, President Bouaka, sorry, is now going to turn these individuals to be political saints.
Yeah.
Because these people, our people, if they cannot stand for themselves, if these people are saying, you know, just what anyone would say, they will start to see them as heroes.
Yes, absolutely.
Wouldn't that be sad? It would be the doing of Bouaka, President Bouaka, to put it right.
Absolutely.
To see, you know, Akara's becoming a moral voice today. I saw former Vice President Joel Howard Taylor at the press conference. The woman with zero accomplishment for a long time in government. Not even the people of Bon County she represented. Joel Howard Taylor has zero developmental print. In Bon County, say Anthony say zero. Not even a house bill by her. A former President Charles Taylor used the people.
Not true, Mr. C. She has an all-girls school in Bon County.
All right.
That she's been.
Thank you. I want you to bring me video evidence and picture evidence of that school. I want to see the standard. I want to see the quality it's offering. Look, Morris, anybody can build anything. I've seen the schools in Riverside that they talk about the people sitting on the ground. You will call that an accomplishment for somebody. The last time I checked, Joel Howard Taylor, somebody gave her all computers that were not functional. Those were the things she talked to the people. None of her children using any such computer. You know how much money that woman has played with from the time she was in government as from first lady. Now, first lady, let me go down. Vice president to senator. That woman has played with over about 16 million United States dollars. Look at where she lived and compared to what you're talking about in Bon County.
No. She could have done. She should have done more. I get it.
If our people zinc shacks and we'll call it development and we'll beat our chest like what one we did the other day, and some people have to justify well the man did something. The man did something. This is all he has to come to in Liberia. The schools that they build is that air form school that they build all over the place. Even Franticofa built something somewhere there, and people are commending them. Don't you think our people deserve better? Look at the cars these people ride alone. They can tell you. As I saw the video in the yard of the capital, I was looking at cars. I said, look at these kind of expensive cars people are driving. And look at the homes that they build for our people. And look at their cars. Look at the homes they build for themselves. So, my brother, you may call it accomplishment. I'm not going to be part of that debate. But I want to be part of the debate. Is this of quality? Is this befitting of the people? Is this how you respect the people you represent? You're using their own money for Christ's sake. Look at why you offer yourself and why you give to them. Anyway, let me bring you in. The Liberian people, to conclude, must stand up for themselves. They are the people that matter here. They are the one being played here by these political bureaucrats for their own pockets.
Right, right, Mr. Sear. I've asked myself this question. I think Mr. Sharif and maybe yourself have asked yourself this question. You know, there are leaders, and usually they're few and far between, and then the masses who are usually followers. Who are the leaders that's going to lead the protest? Who are the leaders that's going to governize the people? Because we know Liberians, we know our people, we know Africans. If this is a spontaneous protest, it's going to degenerate into looting. It's going to people are going to take advantage of it, and it's going to be chaotic. So, who are the leaders that's going to emerge? You know, we have our political leaders, but like most people say, former President George Weah is the least troublesome crew man they've ever met. So you know he doesn't have the muster to really go on the front lines and protest and stand up and be and be civilly disobedient or civil disobedient civil disobedience. So for me, I think we have to find somebody that can governize, that can organize. Where's our today's decon collar? We criticize the progressive, but what they did, what they were able to accomplish, how they were able to governize the entire country and get people through their flyers and the pamphlets and get them to fight for a cause, to come together for a cause and to protest for a cause. I don't see anybody. We had somebody like a Henry Costa in the CPP or the COP, and we saw how that whole thing degenerated into money grab, and people took money and fled the country. Where's our Deacon Cobb? Where's our Barkers Matthew? Where's our Asa Jai Koya? Where's our people? Where are they today? Where are they? We don't see a lot of them. Might see one or two students from LU, but they become so militarized. They're only there to really try to fight and be aggressive, rather than using their brains to organize and to strategize or how to hold an aggressive, effective protest. So we're calling on the Liberian people, but who's going to lead them? Who's going to organize them? They can't just jump in the street. Even the well-meaning ones will protest legally and rightfully, but there will be some who will take advantage of it and use it as a means to cause chaos, to do property damage, to steal. So let's not be too hasty to call for protest. Rather, let's try to find a core group of people that can organize it, that will make it effective, and that will and that will make it responsible. I don't want to be cowardice by saying that we shouldn't just jump in the street, but we know how things can degenerate on masses of Liberians jumping in the street to protest. Let's learn from 1979. Let's learn from it.
Thank you for that, Anthony, if you'll permit. I will have to respectfully disagree, and I want as of tomorrow morning, people going out there, taking their civic duties and responsibility in their own hands to effect a change, to make sure that they are within the framework of the rule of law, and the Supreme Court has made it clear. So the only person responsible who will be responsible for all the violence will be the president and his puppet in the legislature, Richard Cohen. A people who do not understand their history and culture. It's like a root without a limb. Like, what are these people? And this is what Garvey said. So these people don't recognize their history. They don't recognize their past. We have had a troubled history. The president, I would think, should know that. He's not a student of history. How many times can I repeat this? He may not be. I don't think he is. I don't know what field he studied, but he may not be a student of history. But every one of us should be a student of common sense, decency, the rule of law. This is your Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, Article 65 and 66 grants the Supreme Court that power as the final arbiter. It's final. So, if you will, the illiterate, Mr. Cohn, the coup leader, is now going back to the Supreme Court. What are you going back for? It's over. This journey, somebody needs to tell him, by this medium, I'm conveying this. Maybe one of his cronies is going to watch this sometime later, maybe a week later, a month later, a year later. I don't care. Sir, it's over. This part is over. And they want to talk about, well, the political battle is on. You have guys like Muhammad Ali, going after the Chief Justice. I don't know when the war started in Liberia where Muhammad Ali was. I don't know if Muhammad Ali was born at that time, was alive at that time. Or I don't know Muhammad Ali was in a different country before he came to Liberia at that time. I don't think he was in Liberia. He's not somebody that around that time I knew guys at LU. I didn't know him. I didn't have to know everybody. So if people like Muhammad Ali coming in, desecrating our laws, we should reject this. We should reject illiterates who are condescending of our laws. We should denounce them. They must be denounced. These people are unpatriotic, and what they're trying to do will create seeds of confusion, instability, and possibly war. And they can then run away and go to Ghana and go to Nigeria maybe and go to Senegal. Senegal, man, a country with the rule of law. Talk about a country. The former president of Senegal, he respected the decision of the Supreme Court. That's why he's not president right now. Last year, there was an election. He wanted to postpone this election. And the court said, no, you can't do this, sir. We don't agree. And he said, I honor the decision. I accept the decision. I'll live by the decision. He did. Small Liberia. Pathetic Liberia. The president sat there shamefully. I was holding my head down. As an African, I'm ashamed of being a Liberian today, Anthony. I'm ashamed. I am ashamed of being called of somebody to be associated with this shameful display of lawlessness, of violence. When they ask me around, maybe in the next few weeks, I might have to hide some of my Liberian accent. I might have to hide some of my Liberian identity. I'm ashamed. The president, you're muted, sir. You're muted. The president has made us all shamed. He I cannot be proud. I cannot be proud to call myself a Liberian, to be affiliated with this preponderance of nonsense. And this is my president. This was my president speaking to me, to the Liberian people. He's listening to people like Muhammad Ali. He's listening to Muhammad Ali. He's listening to Richard Cohn. He's listening to Thomas Fala. Thomas Fala? Really? These are people he's listening to? Jumbly Conga Lawrence, man, where are you? Where are you? These are opportunists. I've always said it. But Yumble Conga Lawrence, to me, is the type of person who has no direction. She has no direction. She has no accomplishment. And she's just there. Right now, she's supposed to rally the Senate to come up with one voice. And I need all the senators in there to say something. Take a side. Take a side. I don't care who you are. Take a side. And then we will see who you are. Take a side. President Barker has already taken a side. His vice president has taken a side. And finally on this, Anthony, what these guys are doing now, they're laying the groundwork for 2029. I keep saying this. They're laying the groundwork for 2029. Because in 2029, they're going to commit a monumental fraud. They're going to reject the decision of the National Elections Commission. Because right now, as we speak, George Weah has the momentum. George Weah, we're 4 years away. But if elections were held today, George Weah will win, hands down. How many times have I been wrong? How many times have I been wrong in my predictions?
I don't know of any.
You don't know of any. I don't know of any myself. I told you the other day, Koga was going to win this thing, to my chagrin. To my chagrin. During the election, we knew Barker was going to win by fewer than 20,000 votes. I called the numbers at the time. How are we political analysts on FOL and we don't know these things?
You got it right. Yeah, the numbers. Come and read them. Yeah, the numbers.
62,000. So he has 52%, right? So I told you he was going to win this thing hands down. Koga had the momentum. He had the momentum. He had he had the power behind him. He had the administration, the money, the stolen wealth behind him. And you know what else he had behind him? He had this maniacal ethnocentric campaign that has been launched, that's been embraced now by the majority of the Libyans. You know, this nonsense of, oh, you got one down, one mine, one Gil, one Mano. What kind of nonsense is this? Why aren't you going for qualification? Who's qualified? Who's the most qualified? Does it matter? Does it have to matter if Edith Gongolo is a Mano woman? Now you got to penalize her. You got to penalize all these other people because they're not Gils. And this illiterate wins the election, and he's going to go in the Senate and die there because when you elect somebody in this, for Senate in Liberia, you're electing them to go to die in office. He's deplorable. He's despicable. He's a misogynist. He's a tribalist. He's unpatriotic.
So, folks, following the discussion and the broadcast here, the numbers to call 605-313-6004. Enter the code 791-403#. You will be given the opportunity to participate in the debate. We are debating the issue. The Supreme Court has done its part. Who all must do theirs, and how must they do theirs? We here are focused on Liberia. We are playing our part, having a debate, making our voices heard. We believe the president is in error. I believe the president is in error. When the Supreme Court rules and said days, the rightful thing to do of any president is to uphold and enforce the Supreme Court ruling. That is how it is done. Many leaders in our country are speaking out, disagreeing with the president. One of such Liberian citizens is Dr. Twer, who is popularly known in Liberia, the original countryman. He said, when I was denied participation in the 2023 election on the grounds of a domicile, I strongly felt that I was unfairly disqualified. But I chose the path of discipline, respect, and institutional trust. I accepted the ruling of the Honorable Supreme Court of Liberia, not out of weakness, but out of deep respect for the rule of law and our democratic process. This is a Liberian citizen who was disqualified, who was told, you are not qualified to run for office in your country because you have not lived here long enough prior to the election.
Right.
Imagine that happening to you, how you would feel.
Right.
And he said, this is not fair. But because we have a system of government in which there is a branch of government called the Supreme Court or the judiciary, the highest court, which is the Supreme Court, once that court says this, whether you disagree or not, the tradition of our jurisprudence is that law, that decision, that ruling must be accepted. And Tuer said he did so. Similar thing happened in the case of the late Councillor Charles Walker Bronsky. In that election, Bronsky and others fell. There were serious discrepancies. They have, a couple of things to show as evidence. They went to the Supreme Court. Now look, here are the things that happened in the election. We believe strongly, based on our evidence, that there was foul play in these elections. The Supreme Court looked at their evidence and said, look, we want to acknowledge there are some discrepancies, but these discrepancies are not enough to overturn the will of the people. And so we will affirm the election result as legitimate. Charles Walker Bronsky will call a press conference and register his unhappiness with the Supreme Court ruling, and yet accepted the Supreme Court ruling. He didn't go down the path of Rachel Kuhn that I reject, I denounce. He didn't go down the path of the president who said, well, I'm choosing quorum over legality, over constitutionality, over what is right. I'm choosing wrong over right. You know what the president is saying? Supreme Court, what you say does not matter. What matters is what is expedient for me as president. You are trying to hold my administration hostage. How? How? Richard Kuhn has been purporting as speaker. He continues to purport as speaker. If anyone is to hold the administration hostage now, and comrade, this is the debate I'm prepared for, it must be the president. Because I'm a fisherman. If you're trying to capsize your own canoe, you will be held hostage in the middle of the sea. This is how I see it. Because now, if the Americans say, okay, this is what you want to do, all right, go ahead and have your will. But look, you're not going to get our support. You're not going to get a visa. Your administration, your officials not going to get a visa from us. In fact, we're going to sanction you. And if they lobby with other partners in the world, say, look, do not do business with this president because he has chosen a path of lawlessness. He has chosen to be a president who does not respect the rule of law. And so if you are a business, if you were to go to Liberia and the Supreme Court rule in your favor as a business, look, you have legitimacy to this, the president will not enforce that. And so business individual or businesses will say, well, I'm not going to that country. where the ruling of the highest court is not respected, I don't feel protected in that country. Now, Liberians will be denied opportunities to work. It will be the president holding his administration hostage. You're already struggling with providing jobs for your citizens. The only job the administration can provide for its people, few government jobs that pay nothing,
Right.
absolutely nothing, with no benefits. I think people working for Mental Steel and others, they are doing well. They don't have to steal to survive, except for some folks in government who have access to funds. Today in Liberia, people still collecting physical cash to pay government taxes. Isn't that ludicrous?
Yeah.
In the day and age where technology can be used with mobile money, banking, and people still carrying physical cash in offices, and those monies are landing in the pockets of individuals. So if anyone is holding the administration's hostage by their own conduct, it should be the president. I come back to my question. Will we see any member of the administration to publicly disagree with the president? Will we see that? Will we see some patriots in the administration to say, no, Mr. President, I stand with you as president, but I disagree with you on this position that you're taking. I respect that you are the president of the nation, but on this one, Mr. President, you are in error. There's no other way other than for you to accept and enforce the ruling of the Supreme Court. That is your constitutional responsibility. Mr. President, I in particular, I beg to differ. Will we have any member of the administration who can do that? No, we may not get anyone, because what they stand for is a paycheck over what is right for nation building.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. Comrade, maybe you know somebody who will stand up. And so I will repeat again by putting my two big brothers on the spot. Alari Togba, will we hear you speak? And will you be on the side of the law? Dr. Dubai Christian, you
that's my
persecuted.
That's my mentor. That's my mentor.
As a young student, I remember the picture. He was, I think, one of the youngest.
Yeah, one of the youngest, yeah.
Standing up for something at that time.
Yeah.
At his own peril.
I think he was.
He had an autocrat in power at the time. These guys, they have no access to the war. At that time, the war was so close.
Yes.
And yet, they're dead. Dubanya dead. Alari Toba dead. They were arrested. They went to jail. They were young people who wanted a better life. And they stood against a dictator at the time.
Ezekiel Pajibo and
now,
others.
Ezekiel Pajibo and others. And I think in one of Albert Poe's writing, he referenced Twangre as a doughty journalist.
Yeah.
This man has his mad. He was standing for the rule of law. Albert Poe and others. I mean, Dubanya, you stood your ground.
When you did
not know much at the time, but you knew something that there was something worth standing for. Will you stand up? And I'm doing it on purpose. I am doing this and I will not stop. Alari Toba, are you hearing this? Who are the individuals in government? I mean, are you not going to say something because your paycheck is on the line? Do you know what is on the line here? When we have no Liberia, you have no paycheck. Hello?
Yeah.
Comrade, I gave you the chance. And folks, we want you to call and participate. We share the numbers. The numbers are actually, the number is actually in the Facebook live feed. We want you to participate. Go ahead, Comrade.
It's a lot. It's a lot to chew on. You know, I go back to my statement and to borrow from the great Marcus Mosiah Garvey. You know, a people who have no recognition of their history, historical past or culture, is like a tree without roots. So today, yesterday, we have been, as a nation, the nation of Liberia has been a tree without roots. So when you cut the roots of, you know, When you want to, you know, knock down a tree and you cut the roots, what is left? It's dead. It's gone. It's dead. So, if you will, these people who are doing this have no recognition. They do have recollection of the ugly past. They do know what happened in yesteryears. They know what happened 10 years ago. They know what happened 5 years ago. So they know these things. They know what happened in 1980, these people. They know what happened in 1979, these people do. They know what happened in the 70s. They know what happened in the 50s. Some of them know what happened even in the 40s. They can tell you everything about, you know, Charles D.B. King and before King. Some of these people can. Some of these people are capable of that. But when it comes to the greed, the massive greed that's ingrained in the Liberian culture, in our psyche, where the public sector is where everyone goes to become wealthy, to become somebody, never mind wealthy, to be somebody. To be somebody in Liberia, you have to enroll in the public sector. Contrary to the United States, the great United States, where all of our people say, we're going to the United States. You know, they got to give us money to develop our country. You know, we got to go to the United States. We got to beg the Americans. Well, the Americans have a model. The model is public service, public sector. The public sector is public service. It's not where you go to get wealthy. You can get the experience and transfer that experience into the private sector. You can transfer that experience and do something else. People like myself believe that I can get my education and allow the public sector, the public service, to pay for it, right? There are all kinds of motivations for going into the public service in the United States, but wealth is not one of them. Maybe you are that ambitious intellectual. You want to get some education under your belt, and you want the public sector, you know, your employment in the public sector to pay for that.
Yeah.
You can do something like that. Liberia is the opposite, right? We go to the public service to get wealthy. And because of the enormous wealth that is there to be made, look at this guy, Richard Cohn, this illiterate. Look at the car he's driving. Look at the vehicle he's driving. And the people that
In
are
the midst of poor
around
people,
him,
in the midst of hungry people.
in the midst of hunger, in the midst of poverty. Liberia, my dear friend, Anthony, my dear comrade, it's a sad, very sad story. This is the tragedy.
In the comrade, we have a caller. Let's bring in the man, Joel Williamson. Mr. Williamson, you are live. I'm sure you are following the discussion. You know what we are discussing about. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, thank you again for allowing me. Let me just also give you my felicitations for having such a platform.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, an entity like yours cannot play a more pivotal role, a significant role in what's going on in Liberia than what is happening now. It is, you know, a sad day to see us self-destructing. You know, I'm a CDCian, and when we lost the election, I was feeling down. But when I listened to the concession of President Weah, I was lifted up not because of their concession, but Liberia had regained its footing, had put its democratic credentials as an example to be followed. there we have a new awakening. That country that was once again the beacon of democracy or hope in Africa showed itself that time. Yesterday, or the day before yesterday, in the midst of
that color drop off.
Oh, man.
That color drop off.
Call
Unfortunately,
back. Please call back.
yeah, I'm sure he's gonna call back. I'm sure he's gonna call back, and he wants to participate. And for those who are following on Facebook, if you don't want to call, you can also write your comment. We will be able to highlight your comment. I see Theodosia Hart here. Hello, watching from PA, the USA.
Lansdowne. That's
Yeah.
good.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
good.
Mhm.
All right. And then we have Daros Portois. They are making fun out of the court. You know, Daros saying that what they're doing is making fun of the court. So we have, let me see, this person, Gian or Gray. I hope I got that right. I'm sure that you did not say anything during other leadership of other president, and we went through crisis. Now you are speaking, but you forgot the past. I don't know who you're speaking to. Are you speaking to me?
Yeah, he hasn't been watching us because we came down on We Are every day.
Yeah. So this person got to be somebody who probably watching Ada for the first time.
Right.
This is all we've done, you know, who are our leaders accountable, respecting them, while at the same time saying, no, you are wrong. And you are dead wrong.
Absolutely.
So let's see. No, Wilson is not back yet. So, folks, if you want to participate, the phone number to call is on the screen. You can see it there. We posted that in Facebook and YouTube as well. 605-313-6004. Enter the code 791-403 #, and then you will be given the opportunity to participate in this debate. It's Friday night debate, and we are debating the issue. The Supreme Court has done its part. Who all must do theirs and how they must do it. As a media entity, we are doing our part, and we are doing it the best way we know. And this is what you get, nothing but the best from us. Nationalistic, patriotic, speaking truth to power, respecting our leaders for being our leaders, but at the same time looking in their faces and telling them, say, no, sir, no, man, you are wrong. You are on the wrong path of history, and this is not right for our country. I want to see folks in government to decide between paycheck and nationalism and patriotism, to stand up for democracy for once. Let us stand up for the rule of law for once. Come on. I want to see folks in government stand up for something. Look, the good thing is that, I mean, if there have ever been a time for us to stand up for something, and we can do it so conveniently and easily, that time is now. In the days of Tipota, you know, Dubanyan and Lalari Toba, you know, some of them were sent to Bela Yala. I mean, they couldn't even run. You know, the media was in the pocket of the government. The newspapers were being heavily controlled. Thank God today, you can be in any part of the world. Just with the smartphone, you can come on social media and speak. You can reach out to a platform that focuses on Liberia. We can grant you audience, all right, and expose you to our audience, and you can speak your mind, all right? And so this thing is easy. If you can't do it now, when it's easier, when it will cost you absolutely nothing, when your life will not be on the line, when it will not be at your own peril, if you can't do it, man, I don't know. I really don't know what to make of that, comrade.
Right. Yeah. When can you? Was that person Joel Williamson? Was that the same person?
Yeah, Joel Williamson. Yes.
Yeah, he said he's back.
Okay. Let me get to him. So continue on there. Let me see if I can get him back quickly here.
Yeah, but so I mean, so basically, what we've been saying, this is the most patriotic duty that anyone has to do. What we're doing right here and what we've been doing.
Yeah. Comrade, he's on now. Let's allow him to continue. Go ahead, Mr. Williamson.
Okay, can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, so as I was saying, as a seditian, I felt very down when we were losing the election, and we were in a meeting, and people were saying, "Done, go ahead and concede." The president went ahead and conceded at that time, and even though I was feeling bad as normal because we were losing the election, I gained hope, and it's a complete 360. It's completely different. It's an opposite reaction to this, and at the detriment of our country. You know, so to talk about this in political terms will be a disservice to Liberia. I will hope that all of us can come together and speak against this. As a member of CDC USA, we're writing a statement to you lot to join us in condemning this. You know, if nothing will unite us in Liberia, the rule of law, upholding the rule of law, should unite us. And I'm hoping that President Boycott will do the right thing, you know. And he talks about quorum, he wants to be ambiguous, but this sort of ambiguity is the kind of stuff that, you know, give credence to bad governance. And I will hope, for the sake of Liberia, that President Boyka rescinds the statement or the message in his speech, and let us all move in one track. Every well-being Liberian should want Boyka to succeed, because our success as a country is inextricably linked to his success, his administration's success.
Yes.
Even though I'm a CDC, I want to see Liberia succeed. But this kind of path, this recklessness is so, it is perplexing as to what is the benefit here? What is the benefit? I can't understand that. And we also talk to the Interfaith Association in Liberia and to the U.S. Congress to please look into this, because this is not the right way to go. And some of us who have seen the war, so beginning to see similarities here. Because I cannot understand, after what has happened, we've gotten to this point where the world is looking at us and saying, Liberia on the right democratically, the rule of law is taking foot in Liberia, democracy is taking foot, and then here we are, disregarding the rule of law for personal gains. I know you have a great show. I'm listening to you guys, and I think you made a great point. But whether the scholars you were calling Larry Tokma or Tuba Young speak out, history will not be silent on the silence. Make a rest assured. History will not be silent on the silence. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Comrade, we have another caller here. Wireless caller, it says your number ends in 8210. Your name and where you're joining us from.
Thank you. This is Artemis Gay from Gaytown, Oro, Chicago, Illinois.
Oro, Chicago, Illinois. Interesting. Go ahead, Mr. Gay.
I think it's an interesting time for our country, and it couldn't be more interesting and more loving to see our country moving forward. And where I see this, I'm writing an article called "The Evolution of Our Laws," just for the sake of the situation unfolding. I'm looking at Article 33 of our Constitution
Mhm.
that talk about a quorum.
Mhm.
It is very interesting that it is there. Then I'm also looking at Article 40 about the issue of adjournment of the House.
Mhm.
So I'm looking at all the inconsistencies and the consistencies of our law. And I'm asking myself, is Mr. Boakai, President Boakai, wrong to also use a constitutional provision that is provided by law, Article 33? And then I have to ask myself, what is the reliance of the Supreme Court? So what trumps what? Because there is no law I see that says without the speaker or the deputy speaker, there can be no quorum. I'm asking this question because it helps us to ask the question, why now we have never had a chance to review our laws since 2003, when opportunity prevailed and Liberia have been silent. But we are very good at cherry picking our laws. And I'll leave it at that to see how far we go with this. Thank you so much for the wonderful.
Well, thank you. Comrade, the comrade is raising a point here that Article 33 talk about quorum, and now the minority bloc didn't have quorum, and he said that is the reliance of the president for taking this decision. The matter that went before the Supreme Court was not about quorum. The matter was about Fonati Kofa, an elected speaker, being removed in the manner he was removed. He was not legitimately removed according to the Supreme Court. So whether any individual having some disagreement, our law is clear. The Supreme Court is the final arbiter of justice. And the most honorable thing to do, even in the midst of disagreement, is to respect and accept the Supreme Court ruling. The irony here is this ruling was rejected. The president went along with the so-called majority bloc. And this is a very majority bloc that said, look, you have no fish to fry in this matter, Supreme Court. So your ruling, your opinion does not count. We are going ahead. Richard Kuhn is the Lord of the land. And now they turn around and go into the very Supreme Court that has no fish to fry in this pot that is boiling. And I see where you're coming from to say these people, they are illiterate. You can't do this thing. You said Supreme Court has no fish to fry. And now you turn around, well, Supreme Court, I think you matter. We want to hear from you. We come in with an argument? What do you expect the Supreme Court to do at this time? To go and change its ruling? This is the second time they have looked at it. Many people argue that they actually said the same thing, except that they were ambiguous. They were not clear. Now they are clear in simple terms. And you want them to be able to decide differently? Well, comrade, there you have it. What is your take on this point of quorum?
Yes.
The gate is raising.
So, again, when you try to cherry pick the Constitution and you give these abbreviated understanding, you apply these abbreviated understanding to the Constitution to serve your own parochial interests, of course, you're going to stop at that article. But the Constitution also said there has to be a speaker. Who is the speaker at this time? It's Kofa who is the legitimate speaker. He wasn't given due process by the renegades, by the rebels. The Supreme Court recognized that. You know, in the year 2000, there was a bitter presidential elections in the United States. A very divided presidential election in the United States. A very challenging time in the United States. Guess what? The winner won by the skin of the teeth. 500, maybe 510, 520 votes difference. The ballots were still being counted in Florida when the Supreme Court said, no more, no more. George Bush became the president of the United States of America by the decision of the United States Supreme Court. Al Gore, the Democratic Party candidate for president that year,
Who got the majority vote, by the way? Go ahead.
who won with the popular vote, with the majority of the country, popular vote, electoral college wise, after winning Florida, George Bush then won the presidency of the United States. Al Gore, in his concession speech, he said, I don't agree, but the court has spoken. And I have to honor the court's decision, Mr. Gore said. Mr. Gore did. Mr. Gore was vice president, who was president of the Senate, who went in that week to certify Mr. Bush's election in the legislature. Because the vice president, by virtue of his or her position as president of the Senate, will have to now preside to certify those votes. To certify. And he did. Mr. Gore did. These Liberians, President Barker and others, Cohen and others, they have properties in the United States. They run to the United States, beg for money. These greedy people, they come here, okay? They go to school and stuff like that here. They beg for money. Oh, this is a great United States. We're going to go to America. I'm going to America now. If you stop some of them from coming to America, it's just like a death sentence for them. You know what America does best? Is when the United States respects its Constitution. 2000 show us an example of the real act of respecting the rule of law in the year 2000. Today, Liberia stands at the threshold. Liberia stands at the precipice of either going in the direction of the real, genuine rule of law or going into chaos. Do you want chaos? You are at the precipice. You, Mr. President, you, illiterate, unaccomplished Richard Cohen, you stand at the precipice of going down as an insignificant politician who is dividing our country. You have no right. You have no right to divide our country. You have no moral ground, Mr. President, to divide our country. You, Mr. Walker, you are beneath the Constitution. So am I. So is Richard Cohen and others. They must respect the rule of law. They must respect this legal luminary, Justice Ewell, who has to be commended. In my book, she's going to go down in history as one of the best jurists in Liberia. She has etched her name into the limestone, the annals of Liberian history, alongside legal luminaries like James A. Pierre, like Chair Chipo and others. She has made history. McKen Stewart and others. She has done that for the country, for the love of country, for the right thing to be done. You know who is lawless? Richard Cohen is lawless. Thomas Fowler is lawless and illiterate. Richard Cohen is lawless and illiterate. The president is lawless. And I will again refer to Dr. Yeke Koloba. He's my frame of reference right now.
You
He has taught me.
honorary doctorate degree.
Yes, sir. Yes, yes. He taught me that there is such a lawlessness going on, and I've dismissed this for several. I've been in denial. I've come around. His students.
You have become his student.
Yes.
Comrade, we still have Mr. Gay on. I want to give him the opportunity to come in again.
Yes.
He's raising an interesting debate here. I have my own disagreement, but let's hear him out. He mentioned here that he wrote a paper, if I'm not mistaken, about this. And Mr. Gay, I will actually love to read your piece. But let me hear you. You heard Comrade Sherry here, and he did you, and I may ask something to him which may not be that popular. The sitting president of the United States of America, President Donald Trump, recently in the Oval Office, his own words, that they wrecked the past election for him to be president. His own words. That man is not crazy. I don't know where he took that from. This is recorded. This was talked about on national TV. The president's own words that the election was rigged for him. The woman he defeated in that election did not even pick it up because she knew that the election was already decided. Whatever grievances and dissatisfaction she had, she accepted the result and gave a concession speech. And we still have stability in America today. Yes. Mr. Bwaka and Kun and others want support from the United States. Last night I checked, I heard the Minister of Information saying they are coming to the spring meeting. I heard them saying that I think the U.S. government is giving $490 million. It got to be a promise or something. They're coming to beg. That spring meeting is about begging.
It's about begging. They're beggars.
These people can't look in life. You can't get everything you want, but you have to keep the sanctity of the society. And that is what our Constitution requires. That is our form of government. When the Supreme Court said this, you have a right to disagree as an individual. But the doctrine of the separation of powers requires you have to abide to preserve our country. That is how it is done. We copycat everything here. We like it, we enjoy it, we hear. We can register our disagreement, but we have to fall in line. President Bwaka is not the only one. We cited the example of Charles Bronski, who had a disagreement, but he said because the Supreme Court said. We cited Dr. Twe, who was denying a Liberian citizen to contest in the going election because they felt that he was not in Liberia long enough. He said, I was unsatisfied. I was dissatisfied. But the Supreme Court said, you can't run. Okay, let it be. So let's give you the opportunity.
George Weah, you going far. George Weah, when the election was still, we're gonna have to say this.
Yeah.
To the chagrin of the Unity Party people, George Weah, whom I did not support, I've criticized ad nauseum on this platform. The votes were still being counted. He looked at the numbers. He said, I have conceded. He preserved Liberian democracy. He preserved the peace that we enjoy right now. There could have been chaos and violence in the streets of Monrovia and other cities.
And
George Weah preserved the peace. George Weah preserved the peace. What is Bwaka doing? He has now disconcerted that peace. George Weah understands now, to me, the history, the troubles of Liberia. Yeah. Bwaka does not. Yeah. He has not understood.
Yeah. Let's give Gabe some time. Yeah. Go ahead, Mr. Gabe.
Yeah. You said the point, and Sarah, I appreciate. Let me just say, I appreciate you guys giving me the space to share my view on this. You see, it's only for the general utility of any nation, of any culture, or even focus on Liberia. There's something that must supersede everything. Right. In every culture, whether it's in your home, whether it's in your family, that decision must be made for the general good of all. John May was right. So I'm back to Article 33. I'm not moving forward There is something called the transaction of business. Focus on Liberia will not have a show tonight if the internet was off and Anthony was just there by himself and he realizes there were other issues that would hamper the show from getting me, Artemis, to doing the show tonight.
Definitely.
So I'm using the same argument. Unless you say Article 33 should be stripped off the Constitution. And my brother, you and all of us know when we go to a meeting, whether we have the beer or the wine or the tea or a tie there, when that quorum is not done, we can have all our discussion, we have other food, nothing going to happen. So that is where I'm bringing this argument. That law was not just placed in Liberia or other countries, they took that for a purpose. How do we transact business for a whole country? Now we talk about separation of power. This executive got to operate no matter what. And it needs to have business done. There's a law that also says every year there must be a meeting with all of the branches of government once a year.
What does 49 say? What does 49 say? Don't stop at 33. What does 49 say? Don't give me an abbreviated version. What does 49 say? Don't stop at 33. Please don't do this. Don't do this.
Well, now it's very clear. The House of Representatives elect once every 6 years. Being elected 6 years, does that mean you got to serve 6 years? It happened right in America. Let's use America as an example. Or McCarthy. How was McCarthy removed from California?
Did they have the number when they removed Kofa? They didn't have the number.
Did they get a required number, Mr. Gay? Did they get a required number to remove him?
Who?
Kofa.
McCarthy?
No, Kofa.
I agree. That's a hot issue. That's what the president said. Let the House decide that. But the general...
No. We're not moving from that. Did they have the number? Did they have the number? What do you mean let the president...
You are arguing that they didn't have quorum. Now, the other argument is that if you don't have the number required constitutionally to remove the man, then the man is not removed. Now, you want to stick to quorum. The legality issue here is, was the man removed legally?
He wants to stick to 33.
And the other thing is that the speaker, the law say, according to the Supreme Court, he must be present. Where was he? He was present. And you did business. You call the deputy speaker in your midst, in the presence of the speaker. That's what they did. But comrade, I mean, I like your line of argument. We like diversity of view. That provides an opportunity to understand the issue deeper and better. But we are running out of time, so we'll give you a minute for you to conclude your thoughts. We'll reach out to you to be part of the next discussion here.
Sure, thank you. I appreciate it so much. I was not, I really, really appreciate it. But to move forward, Liberia will go forward. And I know that because we're not shooting guns, we will debate the issues. And let's use the law. Kevin Gonzalo is one person I wrote in the same piece. I saying inconsistency of our law. Even the law, 1854 law that said we should elect our mayors. That has been the law. I wrote Kevin Gonzalo. I said, Kevin Gonzalo, that was not going to move forward if we don't elect our mayors. He overlooked that. And today I see him arguing on the same law. I said, Kevin, what was that law? That was in the book 1857. Johnny and Lewis, the grandfather of the Chief Justice, Johnny Lewis, wrote that law. But we are a country that cherry pick our laws. So until then, we must review our laws and correct what should be corrected with a sense of ethics in it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll reach out to you. Comrade, you're closing there.
Yeah. So there's a preponderance of evidence to show that the renegades and the rebels did not have the number to remove their speaker. And that is clear. We've talked about that ad nauseum. And the Supreme Court confirmed that. To confirm that Kofa is the legitimate speaker of the House of Representatives. And so anything to the contrary is just illegal. And so to come and sit and talk about 33 without talking about 49, like, what are you doing? You think we're illiterate? We're not. We're not. I'm not sitting here. I'm a very educated Liberian. I'm not sitting here like some I'm not going type. I'm not illiterate. We know the law. We read too. We can read. These guys can't read. And because it's not my problem that they cannot read, it's not my problem that they don't comprehend. I didn't eat their school fees. I didn't do none of that. All I'm doing is I'm doing my patriotic duty as a Liberian. I don't want this country to go back to war. We had to run into refugee camps. My people had to be my people were hunted down like animals and stuff like that. Anthony, you were victims too, I believe. We were victims. We cannot go back to this, Mr. President. Richard Cohen, we can't go back to this. Thomas Fowler, we can't go back to this. And these are multi-millionaires. These guys who didn't own bicycles. They didn't have bicycles. And now they're multi-millionaires off the back of the Liberian taxpayers. This is the sad story of Liberia. Liberia was and should have been the home of freedom and transparency, the home of freedom where all Africans, the melting pot, if you will, where people from Ghana, Guinea, Nigeria, everywhere, Sudan, South Africa, every one of us, everybody gather to enjoy the peace and economic stability that Liberia had at one point in time, once upon a time. Our grandfathers, some of us, our grandfathers and fathers, our grandmoms and mothers, migrated to Liberia in search of freedom and economic opportunity to be somebody, to be able to send their kids to school, to put food on the table, to be able to say, I was raised in hardship, like my uncle used to tell us, but today I am somebody. When I look in your faces, that was in Liberia. So these people loved Liberia. Most of them are gone now. My father, uncle and, mom and them, they loved the country. And they transferred that same love to me. I am the progeny of patriots of the Liberian Republic. I am not going to let go of that patriotic fervor, the fire that burned in my stomach for Liberia. It's the reason why when I come on here, I express my patriotic fervor, and some people will say, well, you're just dramatizing. Well, if I'm being dramatic, so be it. Because you know what? I'm a patriot through and through. I have stood with the right thing. I don't care about political ideology in these issues. You have people who are standing with the Unity Party now. When we were criticizing the CDC in yesteryears, they cheer us on. They said we were the best when it was CDC's terms to be scrutinized by us. Today, they backed away from us. They call us names because now Unity Party and its leaders are under the microscope, are under our patriotic microscope, if you will. And we're going to continue to do that. If they disavow us, if they insult us, so be it. We are going to continue to be patriot, to call a spade a spade. And tonight, to conclude, Mr. President, you are driving the nation down the ditch. You cannot do that. You have no right to drive this country back to civil war. Look, Richard Cohen, you have no right to put this nation in peril. That's what you're doing. Thomas Fowler, that's what you're doing. And you have to desist. This is unacceptable. It's unacceptable for a group of greedy politicians, multimillionaires, to destroy our country, to misinterpret the rule of the Supreme Court on a deliberate basis. The Supreme Court is the final arbiter. I want to thank the Supreme Court Chief Justice. You are tonight, what you've done by your act, you are a luminary. You are a luminary. You're going to go down in history as one of the best justices in Liberia. Thank you.
Comrade, you close on a very patriotic note. I have nothing to add other than to remind our audience that this is what we do here at Focus on Liberia. We educate, we elevate the discussion and promote everything Liberia that is right, and disagree and bring clarity to everything about Liberia that is wrong. That is why the song says we are all Liberians. Comrade, thank you.
Thank you.
And have a good night.
Thank you.
We are Liberians.